Hey, Algebra, I just got done reading a news article on CNN. It was about a man who got hit with pepper spray and mustard gas. He was in some like a street riot, and they said that he got hit with it, in his eyes and everything, and he went to the hospital for it, but luckily he survived, and now he's a seasoned veteran. That was good. I thought that was very good. Alrighty, so we are going to be working on section 10.5, and to be really honest with you, this is a difficult section, okay? So if you watch this video and don't get it, that's fine. That's totally normal. Okay, so we're going to be factoring trinomials or quadratics or polynomials, however you want to look at it. And these are called the easy ones, and we'll put those in big quotations because they're still pretty difficult, okay? But they're easier than the ones we're going to work on next. So we're looking for factoring and solving, okay? A value we're looking for has to have, for today, 1x squared, or like this example down here, nothing in front of it, okay? If it has anything but a 1, you need to do the greatest common factor first and pull out some numbers to turn that into a 1. So let's look at an example. X squared plus 2x plus 1. We are always on step 1 going to write this as 2 parentheses. And the first thing we're going to do is we are going to put an x into slots 1 and an x into slots 3. Okay? The next thing we look at, so we dealt with this first. And the next number we're going to look at is the c value right there, 1. And we're going to look at the factors of 1. And we want to figure out a way to create positive 2. Well, I hope that you see it, that you can create positive 2 by going 1 plus 1 is equal to positive 2. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to go into these numbers, and I'm going to put positive 1 and positive 1 here. Okay? Now, when we work on these problems, you will always do the x into slots 1 and 3 right away, and then you will always work here, and we call this a sandwich. You will always work your way out towards the middle. Okay? Always work your way out towards the middle. Now, once we got down here, we need to check to see if this worked, and the way we do that is by doing the double distributive property through the problem, like that. So I will get x squared plus 1x plus 1x plus 1 is equal to 0. And if I add these two terms up here, that's what I started with, so this is correct. And I solve this by doing what I did for the first section, which is I set each of these equal to 0. X plus 1 equals 0, and x plus 1 equals 0. So the answer is x equals negative 1 for both of them. Okay? Now, that should be confusing right away, but we're going to work through examples. Okay, we already did that. Okay, so here are the 4 steps. Step 1 is you break it up into 2 parentheses, and you'll set it equal to 0 after that. You're going to put an x into slots 1 and 3 immediately. And then 3, you're using the c term, you're going to find factors to create b, or we call the sandwich. Okay, and tips and tricks, watch your negatives. Okay, they can be tricky, and sometimes here there's a certain level of guess and check. Okay, if you check your work and it doesn't work, just move around a negative or a number and see if you can just guess and check your way to the answer. Sometimes that works. Okay, so step 1 here, we're going to create 2 parentheses and set them equal to 0. First thing we do is we're going to put an x in a slot 1 and an x in a slot 3. Then, because we are working on the sandwich, we will work on the 6, and we'll look at the factors of 6. I got 1 and 6, and I have 2 and 3. And I'm going to try to create negative 5 from these. So I know that I'm going to have to, I can't do 2 plus 3, because that equals positive 5, and I need a negative. So I have to do negative 2 minus 3 is equal to negative 5. Now, because I did that, I have to plug in a negative 2 here and a negative 3 here. I check my work. I get x squared minus 2x minus 3x plus 6 is equal to 0. I combine the middle terms. That's what I started with, so that checks out. So now I solve. I go x minus 2 equals 0, and I go x minus 3 equals 0. and I get x equals 2 and x equals 3. Okay, and I do that by adding 2 to both sides here and adding 3 to both sides here. Alrighty. Now, here's an example where the number in front of the x, this 4 here, is not a 1. So that means immediately we have to try to factor out. Now, if I'm trying to get rid of that 4, I got to try to factor out 4. I went too far. So I'll factor out 4, and I'm left with x squared. Now, 68 divided by 4 is going to be 17. And 72 will be 18, because that's 4 above, equals 0. Once again, here we are going to try to solve. Now, we can ignore the 4 because our rules said that we can ignore when these are not just regular numbers. So I'm going to get 2 parentheses equal to 0. And so I will get x in slot 1, x in slot 3. And I'm looking at the factors of 18. So I got 1 and 18. I've got 2 and 9. And I've got 3 and 6. Now I'm trying to create a positive 17. Now here's the trick. Right there is a negative sign. So as soon as I see any negative in this problem, I know negatives are involved somehow. So now instead of adding these two numbers up, I'm going to go, I'm looking here, 18 minus 1 is equal to positive 17. Therefore, when I go into these spots, it doesn't matter on which side, I'm going to go positive 18 and minus 1, just like I had right here. Now, I check my work, I get x squared plus 18x minus 1x minus 18 is equal to 0. And that's what I started with. Now, just for other math teachers to not get mad at me, there's technically a 4 out front here because we factored out that 4 right away, but we're ignoring it, so it doesn't really matter. When we go down to solve the problem, I get x plus 18 equals 0, and x minus 1 equals 0, so I subtract 18. And I get x equals negative 18 here. And here I'm going to shortcut to the end. I get x equals 1. Alrighty. Check how we're doing on time. 7 minutes. All right, we're doing okay on time. Not great, but okay. So I want you to pause this and try this one on your own. Okay, let's see how we did. For this one, you should have gotten x here. Now with negatives involved, so it's negative 7 and negative 1. And then you should have solved it. Adding 7, x equals positive 7. And adding 1, there's your 2 answers. All right. And the last one. Notice that this is a 2, so we're going to have to do some factoring. I want you to pause this one and try this one on your own. Okay, let's see how we did here. Right away, we got to factor out that 2. So we have x squared minus 2x minus 6 is equal to 0. Now I see some negatives, so I know negatives are involved. I am going to look at the factors of 6, though. Trying to create a negative 2 here. And would you look at that? They don't work. Therefore, this method doesn't work. You know, and I had completely forgotten that I had put a trick one in here for you. I'm sorry about that. But there is a good lesson here. Factoring works sometimes. And it's a really, really nice method if it does, but it will not always work. If it doesn't, we have to pull out the calculator, graph it, and estimate. Okay? Oop, I forgot next somewhere. There you go. So here's our graph, and then we would just estimate. It looks like this is going to be about negative 1.7. The next is about 3.6. So that's good enough for this type of problem. We can't factor it. Okay? So come to class with lots of questions. We'll talk about them, and we will get these 12 problems done in class. All right. Have a great night.